I remember a few years back watching an interview of President Jacob Zuma speaking about the reason why South Africa there's high crime rate and the crime rate in South Africa is so violent. He was explaining and he was blaming it on apartheid. Apartheid was so violent to the point that it even affects people even today. But this interview is an old interview, like way back during the times where I was still a president. But I watched it later on, like few years back too. But maybe like 5 years after it was released, I watched that interview. And I thought it was an interesting interview. So I was digging, and I found it. And I want to play it to you because what he's saying there is very interesting. Forget about MK Party, forget about the current politics. Listen to what this man is saying about the crime rate in South Africa.
Crime is the one thing that people keep talking about. So, when I go onto Facebook, Twitter, everything, switch on the radio, they talk about crime, they talk about rape. And I'm just wondering, in your speech yesterday, how do you think people can feel assured that something is being done? Because we're seeing, as you rightly said yesterday, an increase in the level of particularly violence against women. Do you think that what you said yesterday in terms of setting up special courts and that kind of thing is enough?
Well, I think it contributes to what we've been trying to do all the time, because it's not as if nothing is being done in relation to crime. I think we've put many things in place to deal with crime. That is why a few months ago, towards the end of last year, the department gave some statistics, whether the crime was rising or not, or going down. And I think they indicated that a number of cases, the crime has gone down. But there are specific types of crimes that they are very resistant, but not just resistant because of anything, not in volume, but in terms of how bad these crimes are. If it happens, it just creates a situation where you feel, what else could you do? I think two areas we talked about, one of them is violence. Now, I think what at times we forget, where violence comes from. Because I don't think as a nation we just became violent overnight. Violence is a direct consequence of apartheid. Apartheid was a very violent system. So violent that even if you're peacefully demonstrating, they will shoot at you and kill you. That called the reaction from those who were oppressed to become very violent in fighting apartheid. You could take it in a very simple fashion. The ANC that I belong to was a non-violent organization. Persisted to say, let us not use violence. Apartheid continued. We're forced to take up arms. I'm just giving this as a very clear example how apartheid really planted violence in the country. And therefore, those who are demonstrating, for an example, because they are from that kind of situation that if you protest, you are going to be shot at. So they are already, in a sense, full of readiness to do violence. So you are from there. It spread to the society. It became a societal problem. Now, if we have that background, it means it's not a matter we're going to deal with overnight. We are going to take time. We must put a lot of things in place to say, how do we deal with this? How do we get rid of it? Because at times, in fact, I must make this point because it's important, because we know it from our own point of view. At times, apartheid used gangsters to deal with their opponents. And that's why gangsterism in itself, in some point, it was not dealt with because it was good to divide people, to make people keep on fighting together. So that's a culture we should, I think, appreciate in the first instance. You know, for an example, if you took a survey of the world, there are countries where there is more crime than in South Africa. What makes the South African crime to look like it's leading is because of violence. In other places, they pickpocket you, they leave you, or they battle, they come in, they take, they don't want you to see them. But in South Africa, they battle, they come in, they wait for you to come. They even kill you before they pickpocket you. It's a violent nature that has become the issue. That's why, therefore, the handling of women by men in particular, this violence, the domestic rape, don't just rape, they rape and kill. So it's terrible. We are saying punishment must be very severe. In such cases, you should not treat them as normal crime. Those who exercise violence, we needed to have special courts that such people are, in a sense, not put in a long queue, but you deal with them so that justice is meted out to them as quickly as possible. We need also to have a psychological effect by the society to begin to deal with our people, to say, you can't do crime.
How do we do that? How do we change the mindset, Mr. President?
I think we are less talking about this issue. We've got many conferences. I don't think there are many conferences that actually deal with crime, to say violence is a wrong thing. I'm aware, because I have had discussions with the religious people, where we are actually thinking very seriously of establishing or of working towards organizing a summit on the moral decay of our country and violence, so that it must be everybody who must participate. It cannot just be the job of the government only. Because once we think we will all wait for government to deliver, then we are not all participating, and government alone cannot succeed to deal with this bigger issue. But one of the things we have done, we have said, if we leave crime as you see it, as you see perhaps criminals or whatever, you take normal people. You take people who live in the settlements where people are. When they go for protest, they carry sticks, they carry dangerous weapons, they destroy property, they close roads, they do everything. If you take workers, organized labor, and you can't say these are criminals, just to make the point, if they go on strike, they believe you must destroy property, you must burn tires, you must do all of that. It's wrong. Now, we can deal with that one in particular, because here we are not dealing with unknown criminals. We are dealing with people that you know. It's wrong, because the rights that they have to protest peacefully, and the right that they have to organize strikes peacefully, is the right that other people have. Because other people do have a right. I have a right to have my property. No one has a right to destroy my property when I've got nothing to do with it.
They are saying that if they're not violent, you're not going to listen, and that this is the language that you understand.
No, but that's wrong. That tells you the culture of the thinking, which is a totally wrong thinking. Because this is not true. It's not true. We hold meetings, izimbizos, with people in general areas. Nobody says, and they do say things. The workers are engaged. So it can't be right. Once we take that and we think they make a point, it's actually a mistake of encouraging it. They're wrong, because as a citizen of this country, you must respect the rights of others as we respect your own rights. You have no right when you are fighting with a company and you come via my house to destroy my house. It can't be. You can't be trying to do so because you want to call the attention of government.